Hi, I'm Adrienne Rogers, Artistic Director for Product Club. And the in-between appointment after you have your hair color done is a really great way to buff out old highlights and brighten the hair around the face and through the ends. This really satisfies the client because it gives them the magic of that brighter hairline and ends and taking away the line of demarcation as those foils come out without having the expense and time of a full appointment. It's a great way to really bridge their services and keep them coming back and their hair color looking fresh. I'm going to start this technique by doing the hairline highlight. We're going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to foil toward the front of the face. You want to make sure that you get a nice hairline highlight going so that it really brings that brightness back to their face. Now on a mannequin, the hair is very dense here, so I am going to weave this hair, but keep in mind it'll be a much more delicate section on a real human as the hair is not as thick. Here we go, we'll move some of this off. You want to always make that first foil a baby fine foil so that it really has that softness coming through the front of the hair. I'm often checking myself to make sure that my movements of color are not too delicate, because often if you make the movements too delicate, you're not going to see anything. So you want to make sure that foil is right on that hairline and allowing that brightness to come through. Now it's up to you if you go all the way to the scalp or a little bit away from it. When it's right on the hairline, you have a little bit of flexibility because that falls into gravity. You're not going to see the line of demarcation in the same way. But if you go too far off base, when they pull the hair back, it's going to have a funny look. So you want to make sure that you're somewhere close to the hairline there. So I have a nice application here. I'm going to double fold this. And then I am going to do a little tip out on the ends in order to build that brightness, because I don't want too much of a strong hairline. You want to make sure that you still have some softness. The balance between strength of color and softness is a very fine line. That's really the sweet spot when you can really excel in your business, if you can find that, where you get stronger color without making it too liney and stripy, still has that softness and sophistication where it's seamless and you can't really pinpoint what's happening with the hair color. So now I'm going to pull it in the exact same way as I pulled the last one, but we're only going to paint this through the ends and through the mid strand. So I'm going to anchor my foil with the application of color, and then I'm going to come up, and you can see this is already a little bit bright. This is a great way to make it even a little bit more bright, because each progressive application of lightener is always going to make the hair a little bit lighter than the last time. And this is when you really get that beautiful variation of tone. Doing a little bit of a V. This is regular lightener, and I'm making sure that it really goes through the hair strand so that we can get that nice lift out of that. And I'm going to double fold, protecting the pocket at the top. But you can see I'm really getting that in there. You want to make sure that you have enough. And then I'm going to reverse weave here from this section so that it wraps right around that. And however much you choose design-wise to put in here, depending on how much impact you want in the front. And that definitely just depends on what your design and your outcome that you're looking for is. I'm going to come in, nice little weave here. Now you want to watch out for how strong your lightener is. If this hair is already pretty light, you don't want to go in with anything too aggressive. You're just looking to reconnect this and brighten it up a little bit, so you really want to pay attention to that, depending on how much pigment is still in the hair. So 20 volume, even 10 if you're just looking to kind of brighten it a little and you're not looking for a clean finish. I've done my set in the front, and now I'm going to come to the top here and put my next connecting point in. Pulling down the hairline. Obviously it's very dense, which would be more soft with a regular natural hairline, but I'm gonna weave this out, get the basic gist. Placing my foil in. Coming up and brightening this up. Wrapping someone's hair in brightness around their face is always a great way to make it look fresh again. And it's an excellent quick service. Making sure you got everything saturated. My second foil, just like we did on the sides. Dropping down. A lot of times the looks that we've been creating over the last few years, they're very soft and they really grow out without a lot of need to be doing much. But you want to make sure that you keep your client on the hook, coming back in. Give them services to want to have, such as you can come in after this for a buff and brighten appointment in order to maintain your color. They definitely want a plan, and they also will listen if you tell them that they're going to need to come in and polish it up a little bit. Sometimes clients will disappear for a long time if you make their hair too easy to grow out and forget how amazing you are and go to someone else. So you always want to give them something to look forward to for their next appointment, something that they're going to need to do to update this. And an in-between appointment to freshen it up is the way to go. Then I'm going to reverse weave this one again up top. That way you are really anchoring that in, but all of the hair through the ends is bright. Coming through. Once you get this foil in, you're going to want to buff out the origin of the highlights from the previous visit. Formulation is really important with that. You're going to want to go darker than the highlights and maybe a similar level to their base. Don't go too dark or you're going to create too much of a heavy base. And then you don't want to have to go in and brighten that up next time that they come in for their highlights. So think about the next appointment when you are doing this appointment. Make sure that you don't cause any new problems for yourself. You're going to use a demi permanent to soften out those old highlights so that you can't read them, but not entirely shift their hair into a new tone or level. So for her, I'm going to use an acidic demi permanent, and I'm going to come through and I'm going to apply it so that I can get rid of that line right there. I've already mixed that up, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to apply it just through the origin of those highlights. And because I didn't go too dark, it's going to blend out because it's going to blend with their natural hair. So you want to go either like a half a shade or a shade darker than their natural color, just so that you get good deposit. Not too dark that you create a darker shadow root. It's not a color melt, it's a buff and brighten. I'm going to come through and apply this, making sure that I get that origin but not going too deep. Once I finish applying that, I'm going to lighten the ends. So I've applied my demi-permanent glaze to soften out the beginning of each of these highlights here, and it's softening it out. While that's processing, we're going to come through and we are going to brighten up the ends. This is a great way to give the hair color new life and allow it to really pop again. So I'm gonna make sure that I take this hair and give it a little bit of lift off the scalp so I'm not jamming it into the base glaze. You always want to try to protect what you have going on so it doesn't pick up some odd, tones to the hair. And then I'm just going to kind of look at this and see what's happening, and I'm going to brighten this piece right in here, kind of looking at the hair, where this is going to move into. Always think about it as a whole. If I've got all of this hairline stuff happening here, I kind of want that to flow in a nice shape. So we're going to brighten this piece right here, right behind the hairline highlights. It's not so much how many foils you put in when you're doing someone's hair color that you should charge for the foil. It's the knowledge of knowing where to put the foils in, knowing when to stop. That's what you're charging for. So if you only put 6 little end lights in here, it's not that you're charging for 6 highlights. This is your design. This is how you are thinking about doing this, and you want to make sure that you are charging for your knowledge and your design expertise. It's not about how many you do. It's knowing when to stop for each client, knowing design-wise what you're looking for. Where is your artistry coming into it? When you look at the hair and are deciding where to place them, these choices and decisions are impactful into what you're doing, and that's where the value comes. The value comes from the bespoke attention, the individual design work that you're doing for each client. Really customizing their color. I've had clients tell me that they don't like to send their friends because they're afraid that they're all gonna look alike. And if you're making all your clients look alike, you need to really pay attention to each individual and customize their color. And make sure that you are not repeating your work all the time. That's what will really separate you professionally. This is design work. Thinking about how everything is falling, how it works. I'm going to move this way, and I'm going to kind of wrap that in a horseshoe shape just to drop this next layer. Again, I'm looking at the hair and thinking about how I want to brighten it. Give this a little lift off the scalp so that any old highlights are not going to get integrated into the smudge that you have done to soften that out. Moving the hair directionally is going to change the effect. So you want to think about how that hair is going to sweep in. To the shape. And I'm just anchoring these foils to start so that I have a good control over what's happening. Once I get all of this stuff in, then I can really apply the top with a good solid foundation, and the hair is all locked in, so I can kind of be more artistic without worrying about controlling the hair. Again, you want to use enough strength to your lightener and developer that you're going to get this lifted. If there's a lot of natural pigment in the hair, you want to make sure to use something a little stronger so that it doesn't land in an orangey or a yellowy tone. Make sure you get it where you need it to go. The balance between processing the hair enough and not over processing it is really key to success, and another thing that experience is really helpful with. So we buffed out old highlights and now we're brightening it. Each circular layer, kind of looking at it, letting it drop down, seeing as it falls what it's gonna do. They come in right here because I know I have this one and I wanna connect that in a little bit. So when we pull this section down, we wanna think about how we're going to connect that in. You don't wanna do all of the hair on the ends or you may end up with an ombre-esque finish. So think about what you're looking for. Balance, leaving hair out, lightening some. Making sure to blend. And then again, you want to protect the pocket. And then sort of look at the back and think about what needs to happen here. I think another one over here, I'm gonna leave a little bit of depth out underneath. Here we go. A little back comb right there so it doesn't end up being too heavy. Very slight. When you rinse this, you wanna make sure to use cool water in order to not have the buff at the base of it darken your highlights. So cool or cold water for the first couple rinse moments, and then you can warm it up for your client's comfort. Then we're gonna fold that up. The beauty of a demi-permanent that's not too dark is you won't have an issue if it sits on longer than its regular processing time. If it's not too dark, it's not going to cause a problem, and that way you can wait for all of the lightener to be the shade that you want it to be when you take it down. This is the finished side. As you can see, we've really softened that line from the previous highlights that were on the top of the head. We've given a really nice brightness around the front, giving a nice lift of color through here. And then by bumping up all of the ends, we've given her a really nice finished, complete look. So she's got a great style that she can wear until her next visit, where you go back in and bring those highlights back up to the scalp.